This episode of the MSP podcast is brought to you by Big Tex Outdoors. Everything you could possibly need for your firearm. If he doesn't have it, you probably don't need it. And PHLster holsters. Can't do a sub 5-second fast drill? We'll get a PHLster holster. If you still can't, well, at least you know it's not the holster's fault. And primary and secondary, the definitive source for the armed professional and the responsible citizen. Quit your bitching about all the rules and get better. Hey guys, welcome back to the Modern Samurai Project podcast, nicknamed the Get Better podcast, nicknamed the Self-Reliant podcast. Why do I not say like the 2A lifestyle podcast or some shit like that? It's because it's more than just about training with GATS, guys. It's about medical, it's about fitness, it's about getting your martial arts on, nutrition, about being that, holistic type of person. Because you know what? No one's going to help you. You got to do it yourself. So super stoked to have my friend John Murphy of FPF Training here with me. Per my norm, other than that, I don't like to do introductions. So, John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and why the hell you're on my podcast?
Sure, Scott, and thanks for having me on. Just kind of a regular guy, dabbled about in the military for about a decade or so in the Marine Corps. Always had an affinity for shooting and shooters. About 1998 or so, I found that I had capacity for instruction, started doing it informally at the Quantico Shooting Club, lovely Quantico, Virginia. Then things kind of burgeoned and grown from there. I've been fortunate enough to study under some of the big names in the industry from my genre, which is armed self-defense, which happens to incorporate shooting. Hither and yon, I'm starting to grow a little bit as I look toward finishing up my government career and moving on to making this a full-time vocation. I'm out and about the country now. I've got a couple more gigs this year, and I'm starting to schedule 2020.
Outstanding. So, what for those people that don't know you out there, what do your classes focus on? So, if someone says, "Hey, this is John Murphy, what's he about?" Right? What's a quick snippet? Or it doesn't have to be quick, dude. Say whatever you want. It's my podcast, so knock yourself out.
Sure. I guess the big discriminator I'm looking for is not just a shooting instructor, but an armed self-defense instructor, and that encompasses an entire spectrum of requirements. Obviously, there's knowing the law, and that's a basic concealed carry thing, and that's a gamut of where and when you cannot carry, up to and including when you can legally be justified in employing lethal force. A question I ask a lot of my students is, know yourself. And then it's, how are you going to act when confronted with a parking lot dispute or what are you looking at kind of issue? And I hope to give people some capacity and wherewithal to navigate those shallow waters without having to resort to the hammer. And a lot of people, as I have studied this, they do their concealed carry class, and every problem they encounter, well, I have to use a hammer on it because that's the only tool I have. A rather infamous case in Philadelphia from about 2 years ago, a man just started carrying for about 2 weeks, got involved in a domestic situation, and had his glasses knocked off of his face, and the only thing he had was the pistol strapped on his hip. And now he's looking at a sustained jail stretch. So I want to make people cognizant that there are more outs than just that piece of steel strapped to your hip. I'm incorporating now into my classes stop bleeding, basic tourniquets and pressure dressings. I'm doing some work on no-shoot scenarios. I'm measuring how fast people can stop shooting. I know a lot of our drills that we embark upon to hone that skill. Well, by gosh, we want to get down to that 0.2 split. Well, if we're shooting that fast, we may not be processing everything that's going on. And we'll get 3 or 4 more shots past the end point, and then that can be something that can be difficult to justify. I've got kind of a neat way to time that. I'm using lasers and 2 timers. I'm a little bit afraid I may have had an original thought. And my mother told me an original thought that a cold glass of water would probably kill me.
Right.
I want to incorporate movement laterally, diagonally. I like to incorporate a lot of verbal play, be it for de-escalation purposes or deception purposes. A lot of visualization. On my YouTube channel, I've got like 10 videos that outline what it is and why I do it. And part of it is because I think it fills a huge void in the industry. And part of it as well, I have to differentiate.
Yeah.
There is a long line of shit hot shooting instructors out there, and I'm not among them. But I am offering perspective and skill sets beyond the gun. I incorporate pepper spray, a less lethal option, into my classes. Things of that nature. That's why I want to be looked at as the mortar that holds the bricks together in our walls of self-defense.
Yep.
Jeez, that was fucking brilliant. Write that down.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Well, it's going to be up on the internet, so we'll record it for posterity. Yeah, that's what, and I was, because people ask me all the time, it's like, hey, dude, how come you just, they come to my red dot class and are like, hey, dude, that was a shooting class. Yes, it's focused on the dot, but a lot of that stuff applies to irons. I'm like, yep, but that's not sexy. Right. Or they go, well, why don't you teach I really wish you would teach like a beginning fundamentals class. I go, well, I'm not going to travel for that. And since I'm in the neck of the woods and you are 70 minutes away from me, I just send all those people to you because the thing that I see is your passion for that stuff. Right. And are you the mortar? I mean, I think you're more like the bread in a sandwich.
Oh, there you go.
Right? Where I may be the sexy ham and cheese. Right? You're the top and bottom to make the sandwich complete, my friend.
Not going too far down the sandwich pathway here, but there are a couple types of classes. One is a class designed to hone a particular skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a lot of sense because those reps have to be burned in. Mm-hmm. Those presentations have to be right. In your case, you have to find that dot or transition yourself to what's next right away.
Yep.
Particularly in I'll use the term dynamic environment. Others are more focused on exposure. I like to think of myself as a scoop of Neapolitan ice cream.
Yep.
Across the disciplines, there's shooting, there's the mental piece, there's the what next piece, law enforcement interaction, considerations for that, things that make everything else come together in a cogent, prudent fashion, so we can maintain that aura of acting within the scope of the law.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and that's kind of what I tell people about your classes. Like, so here's the thing: when everyone they hear about like my classes or other classes, right, where you're shooting fast, you're drawing fast, and yada yada, and it's more skills based, right? I tell people I don't teach tactics, right? I'm just going to show you how to run this gun. You apply it how you want to in whatever application you want. But when they hear someone like your class, right? Or a variety of other people, they have a tendency to think, oh, well, we're not shooting, 2,000 rounds in 2 days, so this is going to be boring. And I'll tell you, I mean, how many classes have I taken with you? It's probably like 6 or so.
Oh, easily 6
between me and the wife. Yeah. And I got to tell you, and half of those are non-shooting classes, right? And they are not boring whatsoever, and if anything, they are very mentally engaging, and I'm not going to use the word exhausting, but you will feel it by the time you're in with the classes mentally anyway. Your cognitive receptors have been given a workout. I will say that. And too often, man, you have guys out there, like even in my class, I'm like, so you're doing something. Why are you doing that? I don't know. Okay, stop doing that. But in your world, which is the before, the during, and the after. People aren't doing anything in the before and after, you know? So,
in a manner of speaking, that's very true. Alternatively, though, they are preparing for the during.
right.
Consequently, they have entered the marketplace of what is out there. What skills do I need to acquire? What order do I need to acquire them? And how do I incorporate them into my overall game plan and approach to this? They're also maybe purchasing concealed carry self-defense liability insurance. That's another perspective that too few contemplate until they're mortgaging their house in order to fund their self-defense in court. It's a combination of, I guess, of hard and soft skills. Interwoven, interlocked, to make things a seamless transition between from like, hey Duke, would you stand right there for me, please? A little Craig Douglas mucking going on. All credit to Craig for moving that to where it is. All the way up to, oh my God, I'm going to have to move and shoot. I can't talk my way out of this. Can I employ pepper spray in this case? If I do that, then what do I do? It's a lot of what then. That informs and backstops that hard skill of stroking that pistol out and getting those two center mass hits, high center mass hits in 1.25 seconds to the first shot, maybe a 1.5, 1.75. And then you just bought a whole lot of problems potentially. If you were not completely operating under the umbrella of legitimate self-defense. And you're going to have to borrow from Masada Ayub, a mentor of mine, CYA.
Yeah.
Can you articulate what you did, why you did it? And then and CYA, can you authenticate the training which supported your actions? And there's a guy, you may want to work him in your lineup somehow. Just a depth. I mean, I'm turning 57 in a week, and I've been reading him for a good 30 since I was 20. So that's definitely props. He has built the pyramid upon which he stands astride for what he does.
Oh, for Masad, you mean?
Absolutely.
Masad. Yep. I will reach out to him. You know, part of the thing about the podcast is I'm trying to only interview people that I know for the most part, and I've never taken a class from him. Obviously, I've read his mountains of writing and media out there, but you know that's going to change. I only know so many people, right? Okay, awesome. So first steps, right? So you're traveling around the country, right? You're located in Northern Virginia. What do people need to look for if they can't train with you specifically? Right. So you got the hard skills of running the gun, drawing the gun, being accurate to a competent level. What other than Masad? What are some other people or places or things that you would so what I'm looking for, recommend if they can't get to you?
Absolutely. First and foremost would be Tom Gibbons of Rangemaster.
Okay.
There's a man who had a business in Tennessee where they mandate training before they'll issue a permit. Over 50,000 students, 60 plus of whom subsequently had to use lethal force in their self-defense. His depth of knowledge and perspective is must get. A man who was very formative at my start would be John Farnham.
Okay.
Before Craig Douglas was mucking, John Farnham taught me talking with Goofy. And all right, and Goofy was the unknown contact.
Yeah.
That was my entree into that, and then Craig's expanded those horizons. For hand-to-hand stuff, And integrating weapons in the tangled environment. There's only one man I can recommend. Well, the king of that world would be Craig Douglas.
Yep.
Of ShivWorks, or anyone of his associated part of his cartel. Paul Sharp, Larry Lindemann, Cecil Birch.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken entangled weapons-based entanglement to a whole other level.
Yeah.
And that's something that I am not comfortable teaching with just basic knowledge of myself, but I refer people all the time. For shooting skills, obviously, there's this Jaglinski fellow.
He's a dick.
Oh, anyway. Utterly. What flaming cock. But I was actually going to reach out for some lessons, so stand by for that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Awesome, and edit that shit out. Okay.
Exactly.
And from the other, I want to train with Pannone, Mike Pannone.
Okay.
I've got to get down to Texas. On that note, Carl Wren outside of Austin.
Okay.
Of KR Training, another guy that needs a lot more exposure than he's been getting, and I'm hosting him again in July. There are a lot of names out there. I very much appreciated a Kyle DeFore class I took some time ago, and I took a lot from him. Though I'm generally skeptical of how am I going to put this. People who come from his community are paid to blow open the door under night vision, shoot everybody in the face twice, high five each other, then get back in the helicopter. So you have to take from them what you can from the shooting bits of it, but recognize if they had the full faith of the United States government behind them and their actions, and we may not necessarily have that. We cannot fully adopt, I think, that part of their mindset. Who else was out there? There's just it is truly the best of times in the training and the equipment community right now.
Yep.
The innovation which is taking place. I'm looking now at the Glock 48, and now Shield Arms is on the verge of producing a 15-round magazine that will sit inside of a single stack frame.
Yeah.
And that's pretty brilliant. The red dot thing is booming. You should be training with Kelly McCann. I took a class from him in 2003, and he had a J point on top of his Glock 19.
Is Kelly still teaching?
He is.
Is he really?
Okay. In some manner or another. I think he'll be teaching till the day he dies. Very informative, for me, for what I've absorbed from him. Gosh, who else? There's so many great names out there.
We got Dr. William April.
Oh, geez. Bite my tongue for not mentioning William. For perspective on who it is, who our adversaries are at the very high end. And I'm not talking about just like your drunken schlub looking to throw somebody a beat down. I'm talking about people who are inculcated in violence. It's part of their family. It is part of their culture. As he would point out to you, they've got morals and ethics, but they're just not anything that we can remotely relate to.
Yeah, and so this episode will have aired after I aired the Tim Grammons one that I recently did. And when he talks about, Tim Grammons is Chicago area cop.
Yep.
Yeah. And got into that fight with a lone bank robber. And, I think there is a misconception that we're going to, if we get in there and when we come up against that criminal, he's just going to be a moron. And that our mindset is going to carry us through the day. And he said, well, here's the deal, man. I shot that guy 7 times, killed him 6 times. Each round would have killed him, right? No drugs, just determination, 2 pistols. And thankfully he didn't get to the SKS. But it was just hard will determination, right? And between he and that other guy, I think they went through 65 rounds, right? That's who we need to be preparing for,
That is the apex. That is not the kid busting out windows. Maybe the odd burglary type.
Yep.
You know, once you vault from burglary to armed robbery,
Yeah.
then you've encountered an entirely different animal.
Yeah.
And there is actually a gradation process for that. When you factor in not just their family lives and their social lives, and when they go off to jail or when they do, and think of that as their undergrad and then their postgraduate work. I use an example in one of my classes of a man from Michigan about my contemporary age-wise. Went to jail for stealing a car, went to prison, and then he's in for 3 years, out for 6 or 8 months, in for 3, and then in for 5, until he worked his way up from Grand Theft Auto to Murder 1 in about an 8-year time span.
Yeah.
And that is the apex, and they are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. He got his doctorate in criminology.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And William is expert on that. I'm hosting him again for his Unthinkable class.
Great class.
On the 23rd of June.
Okay. So here's what I want you to do, right? Because everybody that knows you knows how direct and straightforward you are, but sometimes you have a hard time tooting your own horn. So I'm going to force you to do this. Okay. But you're doing it to help others. So let's say you have a fresh person who may not have, is not saturated into the self-defense lifestyle in any way, right? But they understand that they may have a family. It's dependent only upon them to get better, right? So using your classes, what you offer as a template, okay, what should they take first? And then if you want to sprinkle in, some other people, whether it be Tom Givens or William April or Greg Ellifritz,
absolutely,
or let's kind of go through that that path to where you go. All right, man, you're good to go. At least you've listened to enough people and done enough drills to be good to go. The rest is up to you. Take me through that path, man.
Well, for a complete novice, I put them on my YouTube channel. I have a video, concealed carry scoping the problem, in which I lay out the threat spectrum, and then I juxtapose against that the skill spectrum. If a person comes to me, a complete novice, I would probably start them out with Pistol Skills 101 or some other NRA equivalent. This is a gun. This is the part where the bullets come out. These are manipulation, load, unload, reload, reduce malfunctions, apply basic marksmanship. And once that person has those skills on board, the next step would be concealed carry foundation skills. And that's an introduction to the armed lifestyle. I would refer them back again to my YouTube channel. There's 4 hours of me flapping my jibs on that channel for all the way from scoping the issue to concealed carry lethal force tactics and points in between. Foundation skills is the hard skill of a concealed draw stroke. Marksmanship, introduction to standards, a tactical anatomy of where these bullets have to go. From there, I would recommend my concealed carry advanced skills and tactics course, and that's again foundational. Those 10 videos, and then we expand. We implement stopping bleeding, employing pepper spray, managing contacts from Craig, and I've expanded that to street encounter skills. And then we shoot. I call it the BIB program, Brilliance in the Basics. Ultimately, I need to shoot a maybe 5 or 6 inch circle here, or the ocular window here. And once I've got that, the second day is incorporating movement, lots of verbalization, de-escalation, shoot, no shoot, empty hand drills, just to move your mind and your feet. And with those skills down, and along the way here, I recommend shooting instructors such as yourself or other people, Chase Jenkins, guys like that focus on that hard skill. Brian Canova of the EAG Tactical now, people of that nature. To expand further, in hard skills, I host Greg Alefrich for his integral gunfighting class, Extreme Coast Guarders Gunfighting. You've got Craig Douglas in that world, both of whom teach also edge weapon overview for Craig and Greg's knives for self-defense. And that is, you have to have a skill set. You can actually bring a gun to a fist fight or a gun to a knife fight within an extreme critical space. And that's the whole BJJ thing, things of that nature. Greg also teaches collapse medicine and trauma skills for that. Moving up in my curriculum from there, you would go. I have a class on two-person tactics, where if you're out and about with your friends, you can operate cooperatively and achieve exponentially more effect. I mean, if it's one versus or actually that's 2 versus 1, 2 versus 2, 2 versus many. I have skill sets for that to incorporate movement and communication to achieve I'll use the term synergy between the two. If you have your partner or significant other won't carry a lethal weapon, well then they're now the pepper spray person. And we teach ways to hand off who has responsibility for the contact. Who's got security for the remainder? How do you communicate during that process? All the way up from a "Hey, quit looking at my girlfriend" scenario to an armed robbery type event. Then I have another class. It's contextual as well. Vehicle and environment skills.
Yes.
And that class takes us from our front door through the parking lot, managing contacts, using the vehicle as obstacle or cover, and we maneuver around it, all the way to the sexy stuff that people have got to do and they won't come to the class, which is shooting out of the car. And then we shoot into the car just to gain an appreciation for what a pistol bullet will or will not do. And we talk a bit about projectile choices you can make, recognizing, of course, that is a very low order of likelihood event, high order of consequence event. And that's how I've got my things kind of partialed out along the way. The more likely stuff we train for down here, the less likely higher impact stuff we have up here. I like to keep everything though within a context and a framework of we are just armed citizens. I just want to go home.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I want to keep what little wealth I've accrued along the way, recognizing how financially damaging, ruinous, actually, a self-defense claim could be in a court of law, particularly if you encounter a hostile prosecutor who's just looking to shove someone's face in the mud. That's pretty much my curriculum. I like to take concealed carry, advanced skills and tactics. That's what I like to take on the road. Because I think that is the greatest void that people face. I encountered a lot of good shooters that need to do more thinking. And the good thinkers that need to do more shooting, I send them off to other instructors.
So the thing I like is all the classes that you teach, you also host a lot of people at your range.
Right.
And everything you teach, and I guess I kind of knew this before, but the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking it's actually part of your plan, but I'm not sure. That would be complimenting you, and I don't know if I want to do that.
Not do that.
Yeah. You have your classes, right? Well, like a lot of people say, whether they're you got Steve Anderson in the competitive world, I had a good conversation, Chris Seislov. A lot of people go to classes because they think they need to know that stuff, and they do, but they don't know why they're there. So you give a great perspective as, thanks for coming. Here's why we're here. And then when you get done with this, you need to take William April's class so that you have a higher understanding of why you're here, because they may be out there,
They are out there.
And Absolutely. They are out there. Yes, they are. And then And then even like your pepper spray class, right? Your overview is very good. You demo things, you have the practice ones out there, but then you're just not done with that. Then you bring in guys like Chuck Haggard, you know, to teach that.
It's
So
almost like there's a plan
there's almost like there's a plan.
to
Aren't you
create.
glad that actually I figured that out just now?
You did. Reviewing heretofore unsuspected intelligence and perspective.
There it is. There it is.
Uh, it my goal is I want to create effective armed citizens, and that is people who can take care of themselves or their circle
Mm-hmm.
across a spectrum of challenges, and that can be all the way from, oh my God, there's been a car accident, I need to apply a tourniquet to this person, and oh my God, this guy's getting up my face, he needs some pepper spray, and then what do I do after I apply that pepper spray? Because you have just used force, and you have got to justify that.
Mm-hmm.
I like to, again, I'll give that the Neapolitan scoop approach to this. But if you want to do some serious shooting, I've got Paul Sharp coming in.
Yep.
To do serious recoil management type shooting, and William April's skills and drills, because people think of William as the criminal psychologist. He's also a Rogers School graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So he can walk the walk as well as talk that talk. I bring in Tom Gibbons because he puts things together from that perspective of the success of his students. Obviously, he's doing something significantly right.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, this weekend, I've got Melody Lauer.
Yep.
Of Citizens Defense Research down there teaching armed guardian, armed parent and guardian. And that is a whole other genre that John Johnston and Melody have put together a curriculum that people don't appreciate that they need it, and yet they're going through their lives not just with their children, but maybe their parents who have become as they've grown older. Now, armed parent or guardian. It's a brilliant curriculum, and
it is.
And we're back to legendary lawman Marshal Chuck Haggard, who helped put them on that path with a lot of great perspective.
Yep. And then, Paul Sharp helped them out with some of the jiu-jitsu concepts that they need. And here's the greatest compliment I can ever give any instructor in the firearms industry. It is the first time I've ever been to a class and non-jiu-jitsu people talked about jiu-jitsu techniques, and I did not want to kick them in the face afterwards. Because man, they did their research.
I adapted to their level of what for that job. That was a perfect adaptation. Now, would I go them to either or John or Melody for their finer points of whatever?
Yeah.
No. But they have grabbed the slices they need to incorporate that they can teach in a 2-day class to make people much more prepared, better, as it were.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but better.
Yep. And I would invite anybody, like I don't have kids, right? But I'm married to my wife, right? And vice versa. And it's more than, like, dudes, I'm a big strapping, barrel chested freedom fighter. I don't blah, blah, blah. I do executive protection. Nah, there's some nuances here when you have a unskilled, unaware person that you are in charge of to protect. And don't let it fool you just because you think it's about kids or blah, blah, blah. You work in that class.
You work hard.
You work in that class. There's some dynamic movement in that class, dropping things, moving offline, diagonally, however you want to do it. And people are like, wait a minute, I'm breaking a sweat.
It's funny. You mentioned the hulking special forces operator.
Yeah.
As we speak, there's one on the range right now with Melody. And I watched him yesterday pay rapt attention to everything that she said. So what I like to think is I don't have just a good program and bringing excellent instructors. I attract really good students.
Yeah. Well, who's out there? Who's out there? Is it Size Love? Is it Green?
No, it's not Chris. It's
None of those guys.
Another a big hulking moose of a man up from North Carolina.
Interesting. Okay.
Even more interesting. He's shooting a revolver. So immediately I called him Marshall Dillon. For that. But he's shooting it quite well, and he works in a non-permissive environment. Great guy who recognized that regardless of all the training he had throughout his entire Special Forces career, he's smart enough to know what he didn't know.
Right.
And came right to the 5'2", very, very petite young lady to learn what he not only did he not know, he never conceived of these things.
Yeah.
So he knew he didn't know, and that is the quintessential student, I think.
Yep. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Okay, so we're moving through all that, right? And then again, that class ties into your 2-person tactics, right?
Correct.
What's the next level after that?
Well, I just gave a class in Terre Haute a few weekends ago, and a mutual student of ours, Tim, said, "Well, John, what's next in your curriculum?" And I thought, well, holy geez, is there a hole there? And I'm kind of grappling with it. I mean, I start out via my assistant, Gary, Pistol Skills 101, Foundation Skills, and I go to Advanced Skills and Tactics, expanding that. I have breakaway classes on pepper spray alone.
Mm-hmm.
I have the vehicle class, the 2-person class. Do I need something more skills focused, more spreadsheets and timers and things of that nature?
Mm-hmm.
And the more I grapple with it, I think that will be moving outside my realm.
Mm.
And I'm gonna concealed carry advanced skills and tactics changes not from year to year, but from iteration to iteration.
Sure.
And I'm just gonna keep running that class. I'm incorporating now taking people at gunpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Because that happens in our world.
Yeah.
And we need TTPs for that. Certain core things will stay. I will make people shoot straight and as fast as they can. I've come to really appreciate dot torture.
Mm-hmm.
I have people that will. Well, I'm ready for an advanced class because I just had my 4-hour NRA class last week. So now that and I had to disabuse them of that notion that there are other people you need to be seeing on this topic. And
Mm-hmm.
dot torture is so simple and yet so humbling. As people and you 3, well done at 3. Let's move to 5 and 7. Then I'll introduce Todd Green's the FAST.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentals accuracy speed test.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a drill, people out there. It's a
test.
And it's a damn fine one. And when I think of what Todd could have done with more time, it's just kind of sad. But that's just he made an enormous impact for what he gave us the 2,000 round torture. Well, not torture, the 2,000 round challenge. But before you start carrying a pistol, you got to run with minimal maintenance, run 2,000 rounds through it to see what breaks and what works. He gave us that. He was just an excellent. Well, he was on a pathway. Truly, he was.
And I think the other thing that Todd gave us, if you really study Todd and what he did, it was you did not have to be LE or MIL, a special operator to be extremely proficient with a firearm. Number one. Number two, you didn't have to be those other things to come out with a very successful POI, right?
Yeah.
Number three, if it wasn't for Todd, AIWB would not have made the resurgence that it has.
That's a good perspective. He was very much an intellect, deep thinker, not necessarily a Mr. Personality all the time, but genius. Yeah. Genius frequently manifests itself in that way.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is if you start watching later on, about him saying, "Hey, I think I was wrong about this 1911 thing," and the humility to be able to say, "Hey, I've changed my mind on something."
Maybe there's something to the old school.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss at this point if I didn't interject the name of Tim Chandler into this conversation. He was a close affiliate of Todd's, and they were kind of like, I'll use the term talking guns back and forth, each driving the other. And today Tim is poised. I call him the strumpet of the firearms instruction industry. He works for me. He works for another excellent company, 360 Performance. And he has his own company, Justified Defensive Concepts. Now, he's spreading all. He's becoming, I think, a go-to person for the shotgun. But people should not reflect on that. That's just his one discipline. He's good across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that came from that circle of excellence, I think, that Todd kind of generated.
Yeah, absolutely. And his cherub-like good looks don't hurt either.
Oh, and the hair. Oh, my God.
And the hair.
Oh, the
good
hair.
Lord almighty, man. That guy. Awesome, man. So, okay. Who else are you hosting? You host Spencer Keepers a lot.
I got to get off my dead butt and get Spencer plugged back in.
Yeah.
For this year, there's still time. Events kind of transpired technologically, and a couple other things. I want to get Chuck Hager back out here of Agile Consulting. There's another guy who's vastly underexposed, and he brings the LE world to it, but he translates it also very well to us. Later in the fall, I'm hoping to have Annette Evans down for a technical shooting skills class. She's got some stuff going on right now. I think she's working with the SIG people. Oh my gosh, the ops security people. There's that. Other people I need to mention right now is John Holshin on the West Coast. There's a guy with extensive SF experience, but outrageously successful at translating that to us.
Okay.
Vastly underexposed. He was with Insights for quite a while. And then he has his own indoor range. I think he's getting back out on the road. I gotta reach out to him for what he does. It's just truly the best of times.
Yeah. Are you gonna have Chris back out to help you teach the vehicle one again? I would love to do that before he takes off to Georgia.
Oh, I've got to make that happen. His approach and mine would diverge a bit. He was very much on the hard skill out of the car because that was his world.
Yeah,
and he made a yeoman's effort at translating it to us.
He did an amazing job, I thought.
Truly he did. I'm a bit more out of the car, but you are not the first to make that request. He is also working on a advanced rifle class for me.
Okay.
And I do teach a basic. You just bought an AR. What do I do with it?
Yeah.
Kind of class. Yeah. I need Chris to be the next level above and beyond that. He was he studied a lot under Pat Rogers.
Yep.
As I had some exposure there myself, but not to the extent that Chris did in the shooting house and things of that nature. Chris is he can go any direction he wants. He's retiring here from the Army shortly, and he can springboard any which way he chooses, and he's going to be an awesome impact wherever he goes.
I have told him, and he was on the podcast too. I don't know if you know that, but I have told him that his class was, as far as impact on me, on things that I still do today, every time I get in, every time I approach, get in, and get out of my car, I still do those things today.
The red zone had the car set up.
Yeah.
You got the 25, the 25-yard perimeter around the car. In the car, we started the car, we're rolling as we belt up. He introduced me to all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even the way, before, like, just shooting out the side window, right? Everybody here, this is what you do. And then, but now we're going to switch to a Weaver-like stance. It's we're not. We're just going to go here.
He taught me, you manage that space within your belt with your hips.
Yep.
And he introduced me to that. I think by cracking out, I got to get him out for that. He's coming off a vacation tomorrow. I'll be reaching out shortly.
Yeah, because I've already said, dude, you need to do this, otherwise you can't retire.
Ever.
So, and he agreed. So there you go, brother. Use that against him, man. He's a Ranger. He's a man of his word. So there you go. Anyway, all right, man. So we're about 45 minutes, right? So here comes the favorite, many people's favorite part of the thing, the get it off your chest segment. Okay. This point in time, man, you can talk about whatever you want as kind of a guide. What do people who are training, what do they need to do to start getting better? What do they need to stop doing to get better, or whatever you want to talk about, the industry, training in general, yada, yada, what you would like to see. Don't talk about your neighbors. Nobody cares about your neighbors. What you got, man?
Up front, from a student perspective, people tend to gravitate toward a guru.
Mm.
And as a result, they're missing out because any one instructor has got 4, 8, 10, or 20 hours of time to make a lasting impression with these skills.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can do everything.
Agreed.
And as a result, and that's one issue. The other part of that would be not everyone can do everything, but people can do the same thing differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had students with mobility issues. Well, guess what? They can't do every. So they need a much more eclectic exposure.
Yep.
So that's one thing. And then it's getting people to adopt the lifestyle fully. They buy the gun, they take the class, they don't store the gun properly at home, and there's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Paul Sharp, my friend Chris Fry from the New York area,
Yep.
Another genius, and another guy I would recommend, Claude Werner, the tactical professor, his blog. Mm-hmm. All three advocate rather, if you can't afford a gun safe, then buy a toolbox with a lock on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's certainly a perspective. I'll mention Melanie Lauer again of Citizens Defense Research Group. I read her years ago. She had a blog called Lima Tunes, and she talked about she was nursing her child, and the kid yacked, and she talked about how hard it was to clean baby yak out of a holster, and out of a gun, and I'm like, mind blown.
Yeah,
that would have never occurred to me.
Right.
In 5 eternities. Another person, another tangent here. Kathy Jackson. She's retired now. You can check her out at thecorneredcat.com. Her blog is still up. Great perspective on what we do. So what I'm saying is people need to not get personality involved, wrapped around.
Yep.
Platforms, everyone is, they get that confirmation purchase bias, and they'll hold on to something after it has been revealed to be less than optimal. That's a dollars thing. That's an ego thing. Within the industry itself, I'd like to see more of a collaborative effort. I recognize it's a competitive environment, but I just don't like shit talking. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Particularly when it's driven by market share concerns, not so much content.
Yeah.
What else am I kind of not a fan of? And I've been exposed to that all the way up and down, and it's part of the human condition as well.
Yep.
And my point is, it's a huge cow.
Yeah.
There are 17 million people in this country that have sought permission from the government to carry a concealed pistol, which neither here nor there. Other states don't require any kind of training at all. It's a huge market.
Yep.
Convincing people to take a class beyond the minimum, or my words that have come to strike fear into my heart are, I have been shooting all my life, or I was in the military.
Right.
Or even better, my father was in the military.
Right.
I had no idea that was transmitted at conception. And we all know that the vast majority of military training is, well, long walk off a short pier, shove as many people through as we can. We don't have time for excellence. We have time to cover liability.
Right.
Back to the instructor genre, the other types. You've got the former LE guys.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the competitive shooters. And then you got the Bubba guys, such as myself. I don't really count myself as former military, because my job description has long since not been locate, close with, and destroy.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go home.
Yeah.
You can pick all of those, and don't neglect the soft skills, the criminology, the law part of it. Andrew Branca and his book and the Law of Self-Defense and his lecture series he does online. He is very, very good at that sort of thing. That's another. I'm kind of meandering here. What else would I like to see? Cooperation between instructors, passing people off. Someone said that there's actually only like 20,000 people in the country that take these classes, and we just kind of mix and match them. I think it's a greater number than that. Being ambassadors for the right and the lifestyle. I understand YouTube personalities, and you have to be bold and vivacious and whatnot, but making statements that don't reflect well upon the community, and that. I understand moments of passion as well. I'm subject to them like everybody else. I would recommend widening our net, and in that regard, you've got my friends Tiffany Johnson and Akil Kadir, Ack and Tiff, and what they're doing to give us a bigger perspective on who owns guns in America, and it's for everybody.
Yep.
And we're coming to a point now where it's going to be crunch time, and we might want to edit this out later. What's happening right now in Indianapolis with the NRA and the board of directors versus the longstanding, essentially the deep state of the NRA. Well, that our enemies are circling and licking their chops, and they would like nothing better than to see us disarmed legislatively.
Yeah.
And also via the culture wars. I don't know if I've gone too far afield here.
No, dude. Say what you want, man. Let people listen. Let people listen and learn.
We as gun owners, we are being othered. You are not a legitimate member of society. You have that possession. You think that you are not right, and it's been happening, for the majority of my lifetime, and it's coming. It's not going to get better unless we all get active, and take a friend to the range. The next time you encounter someone who's virulently anti-gun, rather than do a Murphy and do the knife hand and scream, invite them to the range and say, "Hey, come out. You can hold your position, but let's talk. I want you to gain some exposure from where I'm coming from." That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
And hopefully,
you know what the funny thing is about that, John? Every person that I meet, right? That, oh my God, I didn't realize you were anti-gun, right? Let's go to the range. And you know what they always say? Okay, let's go.
Let's do that.
They're like excited. They're like, oh, let's do this.
And then 10 rounds into the MP22.
Yeah.
And the Lay's potato chips thing happens. Like, I gotta have it. Give me another magazine of that.
Give me another one. Exactly.
And then you're on the pathway. Like, okay, now you understand where I'm coming from. Let's put this into a context of no one's coming to help you.
Right.
And there was just not yet another court decision. This one revolving around Parkland.
Yep.
The police under no legal obligation to protect you. If they're enforcing the law, happens to save you, well, then so be it. But that's a poor bet, a very poor bet.
Yep. And well, not to get on the whole supporting our law enforcement, but 99.99% people, other than that guy in Parkland, will rush into fire to save you. And that's why we need to support them, right? Because they don't have the obligation, but they still do. And if they're willing to do that for us, you better be willing to do it for yourself.
The heartfelt expression, I understand where you're coming from there, but you don't know who's going to show up at your call.
Yeah.
You can have Greg Lefrich or Paul Sharp or Craig Douglas show up at your call, or you can have somebody who just has a job.
Or is about to retire in 30 minutes.
Yeah, right? and they will do their job, but ultimately it's just going to be on you. You are the trite saying you are your own first responder. I don't know where that originated, but boy, it is true.
Spot on. Yep, spot on. Awesome. So, John, where can people find you? Give us a thing on social media, YouTube. Are you on Instagram, buddy?
I have an account. I've never posted. I might have liked a couple of. I might have liked a couple of things. Hey! I have a YouTube channel, okay?
Okay.
Which I put content on like 4 months ago. There's 10 videos there. And therethere's that. HTTPS FPFtraining.com. I have a new website up right now. I'm expanding stuff. I'm going to change some things out to make my classes easier to find. I'm going to add a mapping plugin where I will be will show up in a little red dot somewhere around the country.
Oh, cool.
This year I've got Pelham, New Hampshire coming up. I'm going to a range master instructor development conference this weekend. After that's Pelham, New Hampshire, and then I'm back in Culpeper, and I close out the year in Racine, Wisconsin. I think October, November.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to getting up there with the cheeseheads.
Yeah, there you go, man, and the curds.
And the curds.
The curds, man. Those people love their curds.
Next year I'll be back out to Phoenix. I'll be in Austin again. I want to add a class in Idaho, in CDA there, Coeur d'Alene. And if anyone's interested in hosting me, hit me at John at fpftraining.com. I'll be glad to see if I can work into the program. I've still got my day job with the .gov, and I'm looking at the finish line. I'm just reaching. Always out of grasp, man.
That's right. But, you're at the 26-mile mark of the 26.2.
Oh, and it's killing me. And when I do retire, my intent is to buy a F-250 and a big honker travel trailer and be literally an itinerant instructor across this great land of ours.
There you go, man. There you go. And I can't, guys. I everybody likes me. I like to be fast. I like to be accurate. I'm into those hard skills and stuff like that. Not because I don't think it's important to learn the rest of it. It's because there's so many other better people out there that are much more passionate than I am. As far as teaching it goes, as far as my own development, my wife's development, like I said before, I've been to 6+ classes of John's and have a great time every time I go out there and learn something, right? Because just because you're not burning down 1,000 rounds of ammunition in 2 days, it doesn't mean you're not going to learn something, be mentally challenged, and get better by doing it, right? Plenty things out there to learn other than just making expensive noise. Right. So cool. Highly recommend you guys train with John. He is, the word I keep on using is passionate, and that's very, very important. He's not like other guys out there just doing supervised drills and calling up drills all the time. You will learn things, and you'll be surprised as to what you don't know. Right. And then looking at the web of influence that he has from the people that he hosts, you could train your entire life and not get through everybody and their offshoots of the people that they train with. Hell, all you got to do is go after the Range Master Network, man. You'll never get through all those people. Yeah, exactly. So, hey, it's time for me to pay the bills now. Otherwise, the CFO gets mad. Guys, if you want to train with me, please go to modernsamuraiproject.com. If you want to register for the class, just hit the links and it'll take you there. I'm all over the country. If I'm not coming near you, it's because you're not looking hard enough, man. I am everywhere. So very blessed in that. And take all this stuff, guys. Listen to what we're saying. Get better. And more importantly than anything else, be good, stay safe, get training.